Hey, Mark Clark here, author of The Problem of God, and the issue that we're dealing with today is what's called the Christ myth, which has become really popular today. The idea that Jesus wasn't really a historical person. He was just made up by the early church based on past myths about Horus and Mithras and Dionysus, all these Egyptian and Greco-Roman myths, and they just took all of them and made up Jesus, and now you're supposed to believe in him in your heart, but he was never really a historical person. And so there's a few things to understand about this. First, any historian worth his salt recognizes this is a silly idea and relegates it to the world of footnotes because they look at Jesus and they say there was all kinds of non-biblical people in the first century that talked about Jesus. There was Tacitus, there was Josephus, there was Pliny the Younger. There was 11 or 12 people that had no biblical agenda that actually said Jesus Christ existed. He taught, he was a prophet, he died under Pontius Pilate, so on and so forth. So that's one issue. The second issue is when you start actually looking at the myths themselves. Take Horus, which is the big one. They say he was born on December 25th. 3 kings followed a star in the east to his birth, that he had 12 disciples. You know, they have all of these parallels. The issue is they're not really parallels with Christianity, not only because a lot of those myths that were hieroglyphs or built into rocks where people kind of project their ideas, say, well, I think that story is saying this about December 25th. Not only aren't they probably true about the actual stories themselves, but they're not true about Christianity. And I don't want to destroy anyone's Christmas, but the reality is no Christian actually believes Jesus was born on December 25th. He was probably born somewhere in October. No Christian believes there was 3 kings that looked at a star in the east and followed it to his birth. What we have there are Babylonian people who they worshiped the stars, and they did follow a star in the east, but there weren't 3 of them. The text says that they brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And that has created a mythology, even within Christianity and our nativity sets, where there were 3 of them. But the Bible never says that. You know, that one guy carried gold, the other one carried frankincense, the other one carried myrrh. There could have been 40 of them. There could have been 2 of them. You know, it just says that there was multiple. And so it's not 3 based on the star, you know, looking at the stars and look at those 3 stars and there's all of it. The reality is that most of these parallels, when you look at Christianity or the original stories, aren't parallels at all. They're isolated ideas. Now, here's the thing that C.S. Lewis and Tolkien said, though. Even if you could mine out these stories and find parallels about generic ideas of religion that predated Jesus, even if you could, and there hasn't been a lot of success in doing that, but even if you could, what do we do with that? Well, the one approach is to say, well, I can't believe it. You know, maybe the devil was trying to obscure things so that when Jesus came, people would just say he was made up. You know, that's one approach. But Tolkien took C.S. Lewis for a walk one day when he was trying to tell him about Jesus. And he said, if all those stories actually do predate Jesus and there's some kind of mythology, it's actually a beautiful thing, because what it was God actually building these patterns into history, into the stories of humankind before Jesus came. And when Jesus came, he's the true myth. He's the one who came and fulfilled all this hopeful stories that said, we hope for a God like this. We hope for the visitation of a God who is born of a virgin. We hoped that he would come and die for the sins of the world and rise again in 3 days. We hoped all this would come true, and then God came and actually did it historically, fulfilling the desires of the heart. So not only is Christianity true, but it's beautiful. It actually gives you meaning and purpose in life. And here was God preparing human history for when he would actually show up and fulfill all their desires. And so you and I really need to think about the idea is maybe God is that gracious that he created anticipation in the human heart for something he would come and do in history, and he did so in the person and the work of Jesus.